Measuring the impact of tourism on the regional economy. This morning on For the Record. Good morning, I'm Neil Heinen. Count us among those who believe Madison shows off pretty well any time of year. And yes, that includes January. But visitors to Madison in spring find a city that is often irresistible. So as tourism season begins to really take off, we thought we'd take some time to look at the serious economic clout the industry brings to our community. And to do that, I welcome to For the Record Greater Madison Convention and Visitors Bureau CEO Deb Archer, consultant and former Bureau CEO Bill Geist, and Madison College professor and expert in the meeting planner industry, Janet Sperstead. Thank you all very much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Our pleasure.
20 years you've been doing this, Deb?
Scary.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
Nothing's changed, right? Just everything the same.
Oh, can you imagine 20 years ago, no Monona Terrace, no Cole Center, no Overture Center.
Yeah.
I mean, just the infrastructure, let alone the business that we've been able to bring here. It's phenomenal.
Maybe later in the year we'll do a whole show so you can reminisce about 20 years. I mean, it's been a remarkable 2 decades, really. This community has changed a great deal.
It has.
Arguably, though, tourism was just as important 20 years ago as it is today. I mean, people don't, I think, really understand how important it is.
Madison has been a destination for a long time. My predecessor, Bill Geist, helped lead it for several years, and we're a very attractive and appealing destination. We hope to be able to tell more people about it in the future, though.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that there's actually an industry around it, Janet, I think is kind of interesting, and that there are meeting planning is such a big deal that people need to know how to do it.
It is, and it's really growing as a whole economic impact into cities and states and countries. And the people that are planning the events, Madison College was the first degree in the United States to have a degree in it. And that was started in '02. So it's fairly new as a structured, formal profession. The people doing the work have been around since the Olympics, right? Someone's planned that. But really to look at that as a business sector, to look at it as a driver for the economy, the economic impact about bringing a group into the city has such a huge ripple effect. And the people planning it understand it, and working with partners like the convention bureaus to help us really leverage the city assets to make sure our attendees have great experiences. That just keeps coming back and back and back because they come back as a visitor.
And the one thing that hasn't changed, though, in the past 20 years is I think that there's a lot of people throughout the region that don't understand just how important the visitor economy is, and that everybody knows Madison.
Right.
I mean, Madison's a great place. Everybody knows.
Right.
More people know today than 20 years ago, but there's still an awful lot of people out there that have not a clue of what an amazing community this is.
Yeah, I mean, that was really drilled home, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago as Thrive was evolving and becoming MadRep, that there were some people who came in and told the community, you know, you're not as well known as you think you are.
Yeah.
And that's and that was holding us back.
Not a household name.
Yeah.
No.
Now, every other community, of course, knows this same thing, and so it makes it very competitive, right?
Yeah. It's extremely competitive.
Yeah.
And I think that we're seeing that this has changed. I think we have a bigger and a broader understanding of just how intense that economic competition is between cities, and just how much the visitor economy plays into that. Because if you've never visited a community, the likelihood of investing or moving there is pretty low. And so this isn't just about heads in beds. This is about everything to do with the community, that we have to get people into the community to visit if we expect them long term to join us here.
So how do we get the message out? And it seems to me over the years, Deb, we've talked about Madison and Wisconsin in general don't enjoy the same level of support for tourism that some other states do.
It's true, and the state has worked very diligently on that. Governor Walker's been a big supporter of the state tourism budget, and working with Mayor Soglin and the council, we moved the needle last year in getting a much growing investment in what we're doing. We're still behind a lot of our competitors. We operated with about a $4 million budget, including our sports commission, versus our competitors in our state that have $10, $11, $12 million budgets. And so we have a long way to go. We certainly are in much better shape than we were, but we look forward to that because, as Bill said, we have a lot of opportunity of telling more people the story and what we have to offer here. And that's one of our goals, is to be able to invest more.
What is our story?
What is our story? Our story is that we are a beautiful, energetic, vibrant city that typically exceeds people's expectations when they come here. We talk about going beyond a lot, and it's not just about what we do as an organization, but when people come here, when you bring people here, what do they always say? Oh my gosh, so much more than we ever imagined. And so it is all about, the brand really is about energy, intellect, beauty. People leave here better, as better people, and that's really who we are.
And do you think people have the expectation of that when they come, or do they not learn that until they get here, as Bill suggested? That
I think they learn most of it when they come here. Madison is a city that has generally a very positive reputation. You tell somebody from Madison, oh, heard it's a great city.
Yeah.
But in terms of really any depth of knowledge or appreciation about what there is here, that's what they learn when they visit here.
And what is safe, I suppose, pretty, right? Clean.
Clean,
yeah.
Safe, again, energetic, vital. And then when people really, the experiences they have, culinary experiences,
right.
Limitless.
Yeah. Right.
Recreation experiences, limitless, year-round.
Right.
Cultural arts, and so it's those activity-based things when people come here. That's what resonates with people. That's what they take home with them.
I mean, it's one thing to hear that it's a great biking community, but then when you get here and you just see all of the bikes and the trails and the physical layout that makes it so appealing, right? I mean, that you can't really know that until you come and see it.
And that's the quality of life piece Bill was talking about. You know, visitors, our residential population could never support all these things. And so you bring visitors into the economy and the cash they import, that's why we have more and great restaurants.
Yeah.
That's why we have great recreation. And without visitors, we would not have those things to enjoy here in our community.
All right, so there's two questions that I have that we're going to answer when we come back. Who comes here? And who works in this industry? I mean, those are two really big groups. Let's take a break. We'll come back and answer those right after this. Monona Terrace, just from the lake, is just so beautiful. We're talking about tourism this morning on For the Record, the impact of the tourism economy in our community. And before the break, I talked about the idea of who comes here. Well, who does come here? Who comes to visit?
Well, if we start with the convention side and trade show side, we very strategically focus on the disciplines that are really strong here. And so we bring environmental conferences here, bioscience, agribusiness, and then sports. We have other markets we focus on. So we're getting thought leaders from around the world who come here and share their ideas. They trek around the city and do field trips. We had the American Meat Science group here last year that went to Oscar Mayer. You know, we have thought leaders here in our community, and we bring thought leaders here, and they meet each other. In terms of leisure visitors, we really focus on about a 4-hour drive range here, and families, gal getaways, sports enthusiasts. So we have a really wide but very positive group of leisure visitors who come here too.
Are there parts of the country, Bill, age groups that are more likely to come here that you would advise reaching out to?
I think that the sweet spot for virtually any urban core community, and of course we have so much more. I mean, Dane County and the region, you know, the rural-urban mix is a pretty compelling magnet, if you will. But it really comes down to millennials and empty nest boomers, which when you really look at the way they consume a community, they're very, very similar, despite being 40 or 50 years apart. And those are the two sweet spots because they have the ability to travel, they have the inquisitive nature. Families, which ought to be the holy grail, tough, because families are going to theme parks and Orlando and those types of destinations. Not that we don't have stuff for families here in this region, we certainly do, but the two areas I think that urban cores really are more and more interested in is that millennial, because we're finding that millennials, which the oldest millennial is now 35 years old, so they're not kids anymore. And we find that they're starting to put down roots at 32 and 33. If we don't get them here in their 20s to visit Madison, we're not going to be on the list for consideration when it's time for them to put down roots. And if we don't get them here, then we forfeit some of the best and the brightest to join us here. And that's really, I think, part of the issue of focusing on millennials.
I suspect, like a lot of industries, Janet, there's an ecosystem that's necessary to support the tourism industry. What do meeting planners look for in terms of all of those, that range of services?
Right. What we're really looking for is full-service hotels, properties, infrastructure from ground and air transportation. We're looking for amenities to help us create authentic experiences of that destination, whether it's local suppliers to help us do off-site events or local entertainment. People having a sense that they experienced the destination they had, even though they really may have not left that event. So one of the things that we talk about in our industry is reduced seasonality, where it's not an issue, that it's not a risk factor, that if we go there, the weather is going to affect us. So we really look at the whole ecosystem of that destination as one of our criteria, because people expect to have authentic experiences and want to experience that destination, but they may not have had a chance to leave their facility, but it came into them. So we look at all those resources available.
Yeah. So if we assume that Madison College does at least its share of training people to work in this industry, I ask all of you, what is the level of professionalism that we see in the tourism business in this community?
At the end of the day, our product and our service is people, right? So that customer interaction is so intricate of meeting expectations the customer didn't know they had, of creating the experience we want them to have, and creating the experience they want to have. So from an event side, it's really about modulating those kinds of triggers that help us do that, because at the end of the day, it's people that we're dealing with. Events are experiences that we create, and so we do it in a facility, in a playground, all different places, but that customer service, and we're the Midwest. They want that golden retriever kind of experience of, hi, how are you? And they get looked in the eye and they get smiled at, because that's what we do. And so really, that moment of execution is so critical.
Are you comfortable with the level of professionalism in the industry, Deb?
We really receive superb comments about the way people are treated from the time they arrive at the airport to the time they get to the hotel, restaurants. It's not just the great customer service, but it's also the energy. And people that are in the service business love what they do, and that exudes that really translates to the person that they're dealing with. You know, then they're happy. It's contagious, and so we really have a wonderful level and attitude of service here.
I don't know that if we've put any numbers up yet, but just in terms of dollar amount, and I'm not going to ask you to come up with all these numbers off the top of your head, but the economic impact there, you know, this is $1.1 billion in direct visitor spending. I mean, these are huge numbers when you think about other industries that we have.
They're huge numbers, and I think one of the things that our industry focuses on is we want to become less invisible and more visible, but it's difficult because you don't know if the person you're sitting next to in a restaurant is from Stoughton or Stockholm. You just don't know that. And so visitor spending is invisible, but it's powerful. And again, the whole concept that the number of visitors that come here and what they contribute create our quality of life. They help maintain and sustain our quality of life by what they contribute.
One way to look at that is we've got roughly 9,000 hotel rooms in the county, correct? Let's just assume that we're running 50% occupancy. And we're running hotter than that, of course. And let's assume that everybody's comes alone. And that's not true either. But it's easier on the math. It means there's 4,500 people in this county every single night that don't belong here. And they all have to eat somewhere. Do we really think that our favorite restaurant survives without 4,500 people at minimum in our restaurants every single night?
Well, you know, it always kind of is intriguing to think about it. It's a pretty clean industry. You know, it's like the original green industry, right? Tourism, you don't see it in terms of smokestacks. Yeah. And yet the impact is is more significant in a lot of ways.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
All right, so there are challenges. We're going to talk about those when we come back. Hotel rooms, transportation, that kind of stuff. We'll do it right after this. My guest this morning, Greater Madison Convention and Visitors Bureau President and CEO Deb Archer. Janet Sperstead is a professor at Madison College and a meeting planning expert. And Bill Geist, who's been on this show as CEO of the CVB years ago, now a consultant in the travel industry. Okay, so what do we need? What do we need to really enhance the tourism experience here?
Well, the two things that we're really focused on are the hotel opportunity near Monona Terrace, which we need to both sustain the business that's there now, as well as grow the business. And we'd also love to see serious discussion about the reimagining of the whole Alliant Energy Center campus and what else could be done there. Those are both big opportunities and can really be transformational for the tourism industry.
Well, so start with hotels. I mean, I think people see hotels being built in Madison, but we still don't have enough rooms?
It's the location and the type of rooms that we really are focusing on. Location in terms of proximity to Monona Terrace. We need a larger block of rooms to offer people like Janet's compatriots in the meeting planning industry and their attendees. And so location and size, scope, and then the type of hotel, that we get convention hotels that have the amenities that convention attendees expect. And so that's our focus in terms of hotels. We have other hotels coming into the market. That's very positive, but really don't make a difference in terms of booking conventions at Monona Terrace.
So are we losing business because we don't have another hotel?
We are losing some business. We certainly have lost some business. There are groups that won't look at us. There are also groups that we aren't even in a position to approach because we can't meet the specifications.
The Hilton's not big enough.
The Hilton, no, and I think when it was built, it was the final hotel was sort of an interim solution, and everyone knew it because the early studies said we need a 400 or 500 room hotel. The Hilton came in at 240 rooms. Thank goodness it came in, but it was. When the decision was made, it was clear that was an interim solution, and so we're looking for the balance of that to get to that 500 rooms. We need another 250 room block of rooms, so would like to see a 300 or 400 room hotel to complement the Hilton.
So earlier this week, the Board of Estimates considered 4 proposals for redeveloping Judge Doyle Square. If nothing else, all 4 do have a hotel component to them, right?
Correct.
And so what's the best option there? Not in terms of an individual plan, Deb, but in terms of the hotel.
Well, none of the proposals respond to the recommendations that have been in the studies that the city has commissioned. All the studies said 300 to 400 room hotel with a guaranteed room block of 250 rooms. Also, one proposal suggests the hotel be on Block 88, which is the block closest to Monona Terrace. That's clearly the preferred location by the experts who did the studies, as well as meeting planners. The other proposals have the hotel on Block 105, which is a further distance from Monona Terrace and certainly not the preferred location.
And you know, something else, Janet, I think people don't understand, meeting space is an important part of hotel planning as well. Not every convention or meeting can do all of their meeting at the convention center.
Right, because the convention center will house that conference or convention, but so many other meetings happen around that you don't use that facility for because it's dedicated to the convention. So whether it's board meetings, committee meetings, sponsor special events, things that you don't want in that space because it's being used for the conference. And so it's so important to have in this city that we have a facility that has 400 or 500 sleeping rooms and meeting space that is more than 100 people. That's really small because you can't use that. And planners will just look at it and be like, nope, not in the consideration. I'll just toss it right out. Yeah. We have a world-class facility. Monona Terrace is an amazing facility. The infrastructure, the staff, we have world-class staff servicing and selling that property. What we've done is we built a racehorse and fenced it in. That's what we've done because we don't have other facilities that can support that. Because for these larger events, I have a colleague go, that is using Monroe Terrace, busing people from Alliant into Monroe Terrace because there's not enough parking, nor is there enough sleeping rooms. Well, that client will start to make different decisions because that's just it's not focused on the customer, which is the attendee, which is the visitor.
Yep.
So decisions will start to be made very differently, and Madison will be put out of the pile.
Bill, flying into Madison has always been a consideration. Clearly, people do. I mean, you want to come here, you're going to do it. So how big an obstacle is it?
There are two things with the airport. One is just the raw number of flights and the raw number of seats in and out. And the other, of course, as we've all heard over the past couple of weeks, is that we're perennially one of the top 10 most expensive airports to be to coming in and out. For meeting planners, it's a consideration. It is not. It's not like the hotel inventory. I mean, that's a deal killer. The airport, they'll look at it and say, there's so many intangibles about Madison that an attendee for $100 difference in a ticket isn't going to say, I'm not doing Madison, because they're kind of interested in seeing Madison. So I don't think the airport is nearly the issue. Now, I know that Deb has said that when they get lost business reports, oftentimes airport and room block are the two primary things we see. But I don't think it's a huge issue, not as big as rooms.
We just have 30 seconds, Deb. What's your dream vision for Alliant?
Really, just to look at a whole real estate development opportunity in terms of, if it's a livestock facility, what else could we do to make that better? What else could we do with the Coliseum so we can have large convocations? Is there space for sports facilities? There are 160 acres there, and there are a lot of surrounding acreage beyond the campus that could be the amenities that are needed out there. That's the stumbling block. Yeah. The restaurants and the retail, so people have things to do out there. They feel isolated out there. Yeah.
Hey, thanks to you all for doing this interesting stuff, and congratulations on 20 years.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap up For the Record right after this. Thanks for joining us. See you next Sunday on For the Record.